Well, my trip from Texas to Wisconsin was not without its drama.
I just left the winter campground and was driving up the road and looked at my gauges as I normally do, and for some reason the oil pressure was at zero. So I decided to pull over and see what was going on.
Fortunately, just down the road was Jay's Auto Repair. I'd had them do some repair work on my motorhome before, so I decided to drive down there and see what they could find. Well, they took measurements and they found that my oil pressure was just fine. They determined that my oil pressure sensor was intermittent at least. Now they didn't have any in stock, and it would have taken a little bit of time to do, and quite frankly I was on my way north at the time and had schedules to keep. So I decided to just ignore the problem for now and deal with it later. Well, after that I continued my drive up the highway to Laredo and had a little bit of drama there. Not as much as expected, but still, the traffic. Now, the traffic wasn't so bad on Interstate 35. It actually got worse right there at the exit where the 3 truck stops were. Now, I don't know why they put 3 truck stops right there in that big industrial area. They should have spaced it out, but I tell you, the traffic, they really need to do something about that. Then I had to face the 3 sisters in southern Texas.
Visually speaking, of course, it was a nice drive, but it took quite a toll on my motorhome just chugging up those steep hills.
And that wasn't the only hill I had to climb. The Canadian River Basin, just south of Channing, Texas, was quite a challenge for my motorhome. There were some really steep hills I had to climb up. And yeah, I had a little bit of a problem when I rode into Channing. I think my transmission was overheated because I just couldn't get enough power to go above like 45 miles an hour. So I just sort of stopped there alongside the road, let things cool down, started up, and had power again. I checked the fluid and it seemed okay. I don't know what is going on. Hopefully I don't experience that again.
And then, of course, there was the situation in Kansas where, well, the water got a little high.
Eventually, I made it to Kansas City and met up with some friends who also travel in a motorhome. Now, there's a truck parking area in the Kansas City area that is convenient for staying a night or two, boondocking mostly. And we met up there, and well, he had a chore to do and I had a chore to do. My chore was to replace the oil sensor on this thing, and that was pretty easy for me. His chore is to repack the front bearings on my motorhome. He's done his, so he has all the equipment to do it. He tells me that the front bearings need to be repacked every 4th oil change, so I added that to my maintenance schedule. Of course, it's even more important on travel trailers. They need to have their bearings repacked every year. That's because their tires are smaller, so they rotate faster and they generate more friction that way. Some travel trailers have got a grease fitting that you can grease every year. That makes it a lot more convenient. Although every few years it needs to be fully repacked. That's not so much drama as it is something I need to do that I didn't realize I need to do. Wasn't too bad. In fact, I took them all out for a Mexican dinner. Cost me a fortune. I suppose I could have saved money by having a mechanic do it, but, you know, friends. But the trip north from Kansas City was pretty much uneventful until, well, I reached Iowa. I'm not sure if it was the watermelon spears or the strawberry yogurt cup that did it. But I got kind of sick a little bit. I mean, they were the last two items of their kind on the shelf. Not sure how long they had been sitting there, but they looked good. Had a nice little snack while I was at the Walmart. I didn't start feeling sick until the next day, and that was when it started to get pretty bad. I had a little upset stomach and several waves of dizziness, and driving a motorhome during a dizzy spell is not fun. When I got up to the Walmart just north of Des Moines, that's really when it struck. Matter of fact, I had to spend 2 nights at Walmart just to recover enough so that I could drive safely. And if you've ever driven across the bridge in Saylorville, Iowa, you know it's not a good drive to be a little bit dizzy. But I made it. Of course, I think it took about 2 weeks before the dizzy spells finally ended. Fortunately, I have a good immune system. As if adding insult to injury, as I was approaching the exit for the Dow's rest area, my motorhome started to make this strange squeal. And as I slowed down on the exit ramp, the squeal just sort of went away, and I checked everything at the rest area, and I didn't see any problem. I even revved up the engine, and no squeal. So I just decided to just, keep an eye on things. Well, it was the next day, and I was heading north, and I was almost to Clear Lake, Iowa, and the squealing started coming back, and it seemed to be getting worse. So I pulled over at a truck parking area and checked things out, and it was still squealing on me. I figured something's wrong. So I checked on my smartphone to see if there was a Ford truck dealership in the area, and sure enough, there was a Ford dealership, Billion Ford, in Clear Lake, not too far, about a 2-mile drive. So I went there, and they checked things out, and, well, they found a problem. Well, it seems the smog pump here was seized up in the bearings, which I understand is kind of common. So what they did was they took off the pulley, as you can see, and then they rerouted the belt. After all, the pump was going to take several days to get, and I didn't have that kind of time, but they had the belts on stock, and well, actually, they had to go through several belts to find the right size. But that's what they did. I won't be registering this in any state that does smog testing, so that's no problem. Well, the cost wasn't too bad, and the fix seems to have worked. Well, one problem out of the way. The next incident, yes, there was another incident. I think I can make an excuse that it was because I wasn't feeling too well. But I arrived at the Faribault Walmart, pick up supplies and spend the night. It was a very hot, humid day. So I had the vents all open, I went inside to pick up some supplies, and as I got to the door to leave, I noticed there was a crowd gathered there. I looked out the window, and it was pouring rain. Yeah. So I took a deep breath, grabbed a hold of the cart, and just ran out to my motorhome. Not easy for a person with a bad back. And of course, I was parked way on the other side of the parking lot, so that was fun. So I got there. It was a warm rain, by the way, not cold, so that was a relief. But I was soaked, and first thing I did was fling open the door and start closing the vents. And after I got my groceries thrown in the door, I grabbed my paper towels and started cleaning up the floor where the rain had dribbled in. Fortunately, I had a spare roll of paper towels because I ran out. But, eventually it all dried out, and so did I. And, well, it just so happened that that night was my shower night anyway. Well, I made it to Wisconsin, although Wisconsin had a few surprises for me. It was late spring, actually, still in Wisconsin when I arrived. The locust trees were still sprinkling down flowers, although that wasn't the problem. The problem was the southern states were experiencing a massive heat wave, a little early in the year, actually, and that was pushing the hot air north toward Canada. And with all the moisture in the air, well, the family had to spend a late afternoon in the basement because there was a tornado that roared just south of here. Didn't do any real damage. It was an EF1 or EF2, but still. And of course that and the waves of rain storms that came afterwards took a while before the atmosphere finally cleared itself up and we had some nice days to do some work outside. Which brings me to the other problem I had, and that was the water heater. Yeah, I had good weather to work on the water heater. You probably saw the video about that, and it probably didn't show the extent of the damage that had been done. But, that's what you got to do. So, if you've enjoyed all the bits of drama and troubles on the road, and you still want to think about traveling, well, good luck to you.